There you are. Welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. Let's have a Zen Fit today. A Zen Fit, for those of you who haven't been here before, is ambiguous. In other words, fit means I'm having a fit, nothing works. Or fit, everything works. So a Zen Fit is when nothing works and everything works at the same time because it's a discovery. It's the aha, everything fits. So Zen Fit is not either it doesn't fit or it does fit. It's the moment where everything fits. And we have those Zen Fits all the time. When you figure out how to do something. I know, you get the last piece of a puzzle. It's that the moment where everything fits. The opposites come together. Boom! Oppenheimer. I keep bringing Oppenheimer up because it's my go-to metaphor. Anyway, the title of this talk today is The Importance of Being Impermanence. The importance of being impermanence, not impermanent. Big difference. Impermanence. Buddha said everything is impermanence. What does that mean? I mean, that's a core Buddha truth about reality. Another name for impermanence is change, or evolution, or a verb. So everything is impermanence means everything's a verb. Everything is change. Now the big difference is that in our worldview, things exist. Things are important. Things change. Some fast, some slow. Mountains change, but very slowly. Fires change, but very fast. So there's a degree, but the thing is, things change because of our language. Our language is a noun language. It's not a verb language. Some languages are. I think Navajo might be a verb language, no nouns. So some languages don't have any nouns, but our language, particularly the Indo-European language, which is the language of Europe that our languages are all part of, Indo-European, they have the same structure. Nouns do things to nouns. Subject, verb, object. Remember your grammar. So impermanence challenges or does away with language, or the structure of language where everything is named and everything changes either quickly or slowly, and some say not at all. So the things that don't change at all, you see, we create. Oh, God doesn't change at all. Soul doesn't change at all. Eternity doesn't change at all. See, so we create a permanence in our ideas to balance impermanence. Because if everything were impermanence, it would be like vertigo. It'd be like you're standing on a riverbank watching time flow by. We all say, watch time flow by. Oh, it's going too fast, it's going too slow. I wish it would stop, I wish it would go. But we have to stand on the riverbank in order to see the river flow by. If you jump in the river, you're flowing with the river, and you don't see the river. You are the river. So the two ways of knowing here. Either we're standing on the riverbank and watching time, watching experience, watching the world go by, and bitching about it. Or we jump into the river and flow with it. When you flow with it, there's no resistance. Experiment, just listen to me. When you're driving in the car, stick your hand out the window and you feel the resistance of the wind. But then relax resistance and your hand goes whoop. So when you go with the flow, you don't feel resistance. You don't feel time. You are time. You are the flow. So we're caught in two ways of knowing here. I am the flow. I don't feel the flow when I am the flow. I am not the flow, and now I feel the flow and I resist it. I either don't want to go with it or I want to go with it. But either way, I'm on the riverbank watching. But what if the riverbank was flowing with the river? What would that feel like? What would it feel like if suddenly the solid riverbank you're standing on is flowing with the river and you're both going together? Whew. That would be vertigo. That would be getting seasick. That would be getting nauseous. That would be terror. That would be an earthquake. That's why we get terrified by earthquakes. When you're standing on the ground and suddenly the ground is shaking, it shakes up your reality. It shakes up your world. It shakes up your sense of being. It creates the feeling of impermanence. So impermanence, you see, is a situation where nothing is stable. And it's like a whiteout. Everything is white. I don't know where, or you're doping off in the car and suddenly you don't know where you are and you have a panic, oh my God. But then you see one thing familiar, oh, that gas station. And once you see that gas station that you know, your world snaps back into security and you know where you are because you know that gas station, which is the past. But the present moment, you see, is impermanence. It's like Jake Sully on Avatar. When he wakes up on Pandora, he doesn't know where he is. And at the beginning, he's still a Marine, and he's got his uniform on, but gradually he takes off his human clothes and begins to surrender to Pandora. Anyway, I digress. So the importance of being impermanence is a very profound statement. I made a joke with my wife because she's a drama teacher, and she used to act in The Importance of Being Earnest. And the difference between the importance of being, and she said, well, impermanent instead of impermanence. Well, the difference is that a thing, in order to be impermanent, you need something to be impermanent. Say, oh, that thing is impermanent. But impermanence includes everything. Impermanence means the riverbank and the water, the nouns and the verbs are flowing together. Everything is change. Zen gets into this. Dogen, the Zen master that brought Chinese Zen to Japan, started Japanese Zen, wrote a lot about this. He called it being time. Things don't change. Things are change. The only Western philosopher to tackle this was Berkeley. Called Bishop Berkeley, I think, And he got into what is time. What is time, you see? Are there things in time? Jesus got into this. If you read Jesus from the other shore, so to speak. So Jesus said, I am in the world, but not of the world. So these are, or getting with God. Is God transcendent or immanence? If you say immanence, you miss the transcendence. If you say transcendence, you miss the immanence. They're contradictory. So what's God? Well, he's both immanent and transcendent, but that's illogical. That's, see, transcendent is beyond change, and immanence is change. So we just kind of like create an idea of eternity to escape the terror or the horror of impermanence, where you have nothing to stand on. You don't have a single belief and opinion. You don't have any history. You don't have any books. You don't have any schools or theories or religions or ideas to stand on. All is impermanence. It's all swept away. It's all flux. It's all moving. The horror, you see. So we do everything to establish something to stand on. Something to stand on that is not changing. So we create the ego. Now the ego is a creation of a viewpoint of time. From the ego, there's a sense of permanence, and the sense of permanence is that I am outside of the world and I can see the world. Well, right here in my room. This viewpoint allows me to see the room. I see this camera, and I can infer or imagine you watching me. I don't know, there might be nothing there. Might be never was anything there. But I can infer that. I imagine somebody there is listening to this, you see. But before that, you see, I see the things in the room. And I know that I'm something in the room. And who are you? You may ask, who are you? I say, whoa, I'm Ed Conley. Well, who's Ed Conley? Well, I live in Blackstone. Well, where do you live in Blackstone? What do you do? So you keep asking these questions, trying to find out what I am. And you keep whittling away. Oh, well, I'm a brain. I'm a bunch of molecules. I'm a bunch of neurons. That's what people say. Who are you? Well, I'm a bunch of neurons. How stupid. You're still outside of the neurons. Who is it that's outside of the neurons? Who is it that's outside? Who is it that is viewing this room? Well, if I really get into it, my viewpoint of the room as being separate from me, which means I'm in the room, I'm somebody in the house, you see. That is a viewpoint. Because wherever I go, like with this camera, you see, wherever I turn it, you see, the camera's at the center and it views the world outside of it, you see. And that's the way we go through life, as a viewpoint. But we're challenged by that in situations where this sense of permanence, I'm a permanent viewpoint, is challenged, and we panic. We have a feeling of vertigo. Everything is falling. That was Mad Men. The falling of a permanence identity. Remember Don Draper? He kind of like anchored his identity on his poverty and his lie to cover it up. His lie to cover up his poverty. Oh, are we talking about Trump? No, let's not get into that. Anyway, so we're all lying to cover up our impermanence, which is poverty. Ultimate poverty is empty. You got nothing to stand on. We get into arguments. Why? To whittle away what the other person's standing on. And they're trying to whittle away mine, I'm going to undermine you. I'm going to whittle away with my cutlass, with my logic. I'll whittle away everything you're standing on until you're standing on impermanence, until you're standing on nothing. And so if I say, well, who are you? All you can say is, I don't know. And there we get back to Bodhidharma. And Bodhidharma was a monk, Zen monk, who came from India to China at 500 A.D. China's old. And there was already 500 years of Buddhism in China. But he came to China and he brought Zen. And this was not the normal orthodox Buddhism, which was about things about impermanence, but it wasn't. It was standing on a viewpoint. I don't want to get into this. But anyway, Emperor Wu, who was a big supporter of Buddhism in China, asked this sage from the West, what is your teaching? And who are you? Who are you? And Bodhidharma says, I don't know, and walked off. He didn't mean, given more time, I'll learn who I am. He was saying, I'm unknowable. I'm unknowable. Why am I unknowable? Because I'm impermanence. And we can't even talk about impermanence because something must be impermanent. But what if nothing is impermanent? means it's a dropping of language. Who are you before words? Who are you before language was born? Who were you before you learned language? Maybe when 1 to 2. When did we start learning words? Could say 2. We call that the terrible twos. I call it catch-22. The terrible twos is when this viewpoint is awakening that has an identity. Who are you? I'm somebody. But what you are is a viewpoint. You are a viewpoint that sees the world out there that you can name. And by naming the world, you stabilize the viewpoint. If there are no names, your viewpoint isn't stabilized. We call that psychosis, schizophrenia. They don't have a stable ego. They don't have a stable viewpoint, you see, because the truth of impermanence has been aroused. So Zen, to bring this to a conclusion, is the arousal of the sense, the hara of impermanence. Not a thing exists, you see. It's where Hakuin, Zen master, will start the ball rolling by saying, from the beginning, not a thing is. Now, when we look at that from our viewpoint of things, that doesn't make sense. Well, we'll go back to go back before the Big Bang and there were no things. But that's not what he's talking about. So what is the beginning? Well, the beginning is right now. So it's a vertical. And the horizontal is in time. Oh, I'm here, and I go back to the beginning. Got to go back all the way back to the Big Bang. But then that's a viewpoint. Now they're questioning the Big Bang, you see. Or you go all the way back to God. But that's horizontal. So what's the vertical viewpoint? Oh, am I making a cross? The vertical is always now. So if you're looking at your life as a video stream, and you're watching your life like you're on a streaming video, and you're watching your life as a movie, there's going to be a little dot there. If you pause, there's going to be a little dot where you've stopped. And if the thing goes off, you can restart by bringing the present to that little dot, you see, and then your movie will pick up where it dropped off. Do this all the time. So you got the horizontal, the whole movie, and you got this moving thing of now. So from the beginning, not a movie is. But if you change the viewpoint to being aware, watching the movie, then the movie's in time. It's got a beginning, it's got an end. But from the vertical viewpoint, not of the world, but as the world. So if you're flowing with the world, there's no beginning or end because there's no time. There are no nows. It's all verb, it's all flowing. It's just unfolding action. Where not a thing exists. Because as soon as you have a thing existing, you switch to your viewpoint of the thing. Oh, there is a thing. I know what it is. I'm lost, but I see something. I see a thing I'm familiar with. What is that thing? Well, it's a thing because I remember it. So the past is a storehouse of names that restore and maintain our sense of permanence and being outside of the flow of watching time. But every situation where you have ambiguity, or what I call catch-22, that whole system collapses and you panic. And you panic, you see, until you see that you are impermanence. So when you are impermanent, you're okay with whatever happens because you are whatever happens. There's no you having an experience. You are experience. There is no you in a world or having a world. You are the world, which is what Krishnamurti said. You're the world and the world is you. And this is what Zen is all about. It's the challenging of our viewpoint, of a viewpoint of permanence. when I must be permanent, when I feel like I'm a soul that lasts forever, a permanent, you see, I've got to make the world, something in the world permanent that I can cling to. But if nothing in the world is permanent, then my view of my own permanence, myself, my ego, is threatened, you see. And I feel the terror of impermanence, which is death. Or is it awakening? You can't tell from a viewpoint. You got to jump in to find out. Have a Zen fit today. Thank you.